With us now from his district in Northeast Arkansas is House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford. Mr. Chairman, on this beautiful autumn day in Arkansas, thank you for making some time for us. On Friday, the president said he had sort of made up his mind on what to do about attacking Venezuela. Today, the U.S. military has begun 5 days of exercises just off the coast. All signs seem to point to war. Is that a reasonable conclusion for us to make?
Well, I mean, probably someone that's just casually looking might consider that to be the case, but I don't know that he has definitively said we are going to strike, land-based targets in Venezuela. Right now, he's focused on the drug trafficking that's taking place, and he's within his rights to do that. I've heard the review from the DOJ on his legal authority. This is not unlike the action that we took in countries like Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria. It's modeled after that. There is a pretty robust decision tree, if you will, on how those strikes are undertaken. And so I think I'm satisfied. We had that briefing last week with Secretary Rubio, Secretary Hegseth, and the DOJ. And I think most people were satisfied from a legal standpoint, but we haven't heard anything more about the plans that he may have for further action.
So in your mind, this is a counter-drug operation. We've heard Secretary Hegseth say this is sort of a Monroe Doctrine kind of thing, and it's about the security of the Western Hemisphere. And the former top advisor to the president on Venezuela from the first term said that regime change has to be the goal. You understand this to be about stopping the flow of narcotics.
Well, two things can be true at the same time. Number one, yes, primarily about stopping the flow of narcotics. But on the other hand, look what we're doing with positioning those military assets in a way that we have is basically to send a signal to not only our allies in the hemisphere, but to countries like China and Russia that we are not taking our eyes off of our own neighborhood. That was the case over the last 20-odd years as a result of the global war on terror. The Trump administration has purposefully decided we are going to pay closer attention to the Western Hemisphere and start to guard our neighborhood. And we're actually, I think this is welcomed by our allies in the region.
Okay, on the congressional authorization piece of this, I'm guessing that the memos that the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal were made privy to, parts of, it is an offshoot of the briefing that you're talking about that members of Congress got. One of the core parts of the argument is that fentanyl is a chemical weapon. That the drug fentanyl is a chemical weapon, and therefore the president's free to undertake these strikes without congressional authorization, or would be free to undertake new strikes even without congressional authorization. Now, let's leave aside just for a second where fentanyl comes from, because the experts we talk to say it's not South America, that's cocaine typically. But on the question of authorization, we don't know what's going to happen, as you say, but if the president does want to escalate this conflict, does something like that give him the ability to engage in land strikes without congressional approval?
Well, I'm not sure. Currently, as I mentioned before, the president has designated these narco trafficking organizations as terrorist organizations, which does change the rules of engagement and allows him to conduct these strikes, much like we saw against terrorist cells in places like Yemen and Syria. So it's modeled after that. Anything further, I have no doubt that if he wanted to do something further, the Constitution does give him some authorities, but not without a certain timeline to come to Congress if he's going to seek further action. So I think it's premature to start to wring our hands about what he may or may not do, because he's operating under the law currently, and I'm satisfied with that. If he takes further action, if he goes after land-based targets, I have every confidence that he would come to Congress and say, here's what I'm doing, here's why I need further authorization to continue those operations.
Okay, you have won a lot of admiration from some Democrats because you're running a good shop, that you're including people, that you're trying to be even-handed and build consensus. But we hear from Democrats in the Senate, particularly, that they have been cut out of briefings on this, and that Republicans have gotten briefings on these activities that Democrats have been excluded from. Talk about that. How are Democrats getting briefings in the House?
Well, I've attended multiple briefings with Democrats present, so I'm not sure where that narrative has come from, but I've been in multiple briefings over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and there were an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. So I think the administration is reaching out appropriately to not just Republicans, not just Democrats, but both together, because we've all been in the same room at the same time.
Okay. I hate to talk about this, but before we let you go, a source tells NewsNation that a vote on releasing the Epstein files could come as soon as Tuesday. How do you plan to vote on that, and why?
Well, I'm not really sure yet, because I'm not sure that that's even going to come to the floor. What I would say is that Chairman Comer of the House Oversight Committee has done a fantastic job and undertaken a robust investigation, and is in the throes of that. And I think he released as many as 20,000 documents just last week. And I don't want to get out ahead of that or disrupt what he's trying to do. And so I'm going to reserve judgment. And in fact, I'm not even sure what the status is currently on whether or not there would be a vote on that particular measure next week. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's obviously, we know there's a discharge petition that may be ripe, but we'll see.
Okay, well, making a little news. All right, Mr. Chairman, we appreciate you. And you, America, if you were heading to this month's 90th annual World Championship Duck Calling Contest in Stuttgart, Arkansas, you would know him already, but if you don't, there he is. Chairman Rick Crawford, we thank you.
You bet.